McMurphy, on3.com, with us cranking out information left and right. Brett, thank you so much for your time. So what a week it's been for Alex Golesh and USF, and imagine what an incredible week it would be if they can somehow run the table and get to 3-0.
Yeah, Smokey, as great as the start has been, I think it comes to a halt this week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as impressive as they've been, and I was actually at the Boise State game. You know, I don't want to diminish what they've done, but the Boise State game was a lot closer than the final margin. That the yards were about even. They took advantage. USF took advantage of turnovers. Had a really nice fake punt for a touchdown. And so that, I think the margin was misleading. And then against Florida, I mean, Billy Napier just coaching malpractice in the final 3 minutes, trying to run out the clock, and he ran out. Well, actually, my answer is longer than how much time he ran off the clock, which allowed Florida to go down and kick the game-winning field goal. So if he just does a better job managing the game there at the end, you know, Florida probably wins that game. And then maybe everybody's looking at USF differently. But the final thing is, the last 2 years, I looked this up, there's been at least 7 group of 5 teams that have beat power conference teams. And then the next week, they're 2-5 in those games, and then 1-6 against the spread. So there's a reason why that number is about 17 points. And, you know, again, a third consecutive ranked team. You know, this is for, you know, I'm in Tampa. This was a historic win for USF. Really meant a lot to USF and their fan base and obviously the players. I just wonder how much left they have in the tank. The good news is I think they can lose to Miami 100-0. And if they still win the American Championship, I would put them as the favorite to get the Group of 5 college football playoff bid.
Well, they've got 2 of the big 3. They got Florida State back under Jim Leavitt. They got Florida now. Maybe they get Miami, but I want to talk about the Gators for a second, Brett. Last year, Billy Napier was under the same level of heat. I mean, it was not looking good for him. He had big losses early in the season. They got some key wins. It also kind of helped him that there was a Title IX controversy around Todd Golden, which provided him some cover because he wasn't the biggest problem on the campus at that time. Obviously, that's gone away in a big way. What is the future for Billy Napier? Has anything really changed from last year to this year when it comes to him and what he can do for that Gator program?
I mean, you laid it out, but it's pretty simple. He either wins, you know, or he doesn't. And if he doesn't win, then he's gone. It's that simple. If he wins, then they'll keep him around. And you look at his upcoming schedule, next 4 weeks, all ranked opponents at LSU, at Miami, open day. Gators are about a 3-point underdog to open day. And then they got Texas and then at Texas A&M. And then you've got Georgia and Jacksonville a couple weeks after that. The 5 of your next 6 games are against ranked opponents. If he comes out of that 3-2, he's got a shot. If he's 2-3 or worse, I think it's inevitable that he'll be gone. And again, the loss to USF, I think, hurt in a lot of ways. Again, yes, it mattered that they lost to, you know, little brother, but also, again, if you guys watched any of the game, which I just referenced, it's the way they lost. You know, a lot of dumb mistakes. You had, for any Seinfeld fans out there, you had another Magic Loogie with the Florida kid spitting on the USF kid, which was 100 times worse than what we saw in the NFL game. And so, again, it's just you've got teams making these mistakes over and over. And, look, we know you guys have been following football as long as I have. Whether it's fair or not, the head coaches get all the credit or all the blame when things go good or when they go bad. And so was it Napier's fault the kid spit on the USF player? No, he didn't tell him to. He didn't know he was going to do that, certainly, or wouldn't have been in that position. But no one cares about that. It looks bad for the program. And so if he can't win against this upcoming gauntlet, then yeah, he won't be around for 2026.
Brett, I guess I'll ask you about another coaching situation in progress right now where it's getting pretty hot, and you know it very well. out there in Stillwater, Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy. I think clearly the worst team in the Big 12 right now. And I mean, quite frankly, maybe one of the worst teams in all of FBS at the moment. What are you hearing, and how are you kind of looking at what's going on and digesting all of just this problematic, I guess, season starting in Stillwater right now?
Yeah, I mean, look, Oregon Steel Club the Cowboys, make no mistake about it, but Oregon's kind of Steel Club a lot of folks. The key for Gundy is, almost like Napier, how does he respond the rest of the way? Tulsa's a winnable game. Sounds weird. It's a winnable game. Yeah, obviously they should beat Tulsa. And then you get into Big 12 play where they are going to probably be a home underdog against the Bears, and then at Arizona. And then Houston, Cincinnati. I mean, there's some games in there where they will probably be favored and can win. I think it depends on how they respond. I mean, they can come back and win some of these games, or look, if they go 3-9, it's not a good outlook. It's the thing that's, I think, challenging for the Oklahoma State folks is how much credit or how much equity have you built up when you have 18 consecutive winning seasons, and then last year was a nightmare. Make no question about it, 3-9. So do you allow another nightmare season, or that was your one nightmare season and now you've got a rebound? He's totally gutted the entire coaching staff. He's got an entire new coaching staff. Like everybody else in college football, they've got a ton of transfers. I don't think that they just, by no means have they decided we're going to do this or we're not going to do this. I think, like a lot of folks, they're waiting to see how the season plays out, and probably that will determine, what happens with Mike. And the thing is, it is different from, Napier does not have the equity that Gundy has. And I think part of it too, and look, I was at Oklahoma State, before Gundy was a player. And so I remember how bad Oklahoma State used to be. Oklahoma State was horrible. It was, I'd call them a laughing stock, but I don't want to, insult other laughing stocks. We were a complete joke. We played in a erector set. I mean, if we didn't lose Oklahoma by 7 touchdowns, it was a moral victory. And what Mike did is obviously Les Miles came in and he started the turnaround, and Mike was the coordinator on that staff, and then Mike took over. And then he told me he changed the entire landscape of Oklahoma State. That's great. The challenge is now that that's become the expectation. And people don't want to hear how it used to be and how bad it was. They want to know, when are you going to get to the college football playoff? When are you going to win another Big 12 title? And you can't go 3-9 again. You can't lose by 66 to Oregon. And so it's just kind of a mixture of everything. And then obviously with today's society, what have you done for me in the last 5 minutes? Not even last season. And so then you get, this sense of urgency. Well, we got to do something. We got to do something. They're not going to do something till the end of the year. And I think that'll depend on how the Cowboys finish.
So some of the better games this week in the top 25, Clemson and Georgia Tech, and Clemson getting a lot of love at the start of the year. Now LSU beat them to start the year, and it was a hell of a game. And then Clemson last week playing with their food, finally come back against Troy. Why do I look at that game and think Georgia Tech is the best team?
Because you're one of the most brilliant minds in college football.
Thank you, sir.
Because they are. I mean, Clemson wasn't playing with their food. They were, they struggled. I mean, LSU put the stranglehold on Clemson in that game, and that was a perfect setup for Clemson to play that game in the, Death Valley Junior, whatever you want to call it. But they had LSU at home. They had them on the ropes. They didn't score in the second half. And, their offense does not look good. And Smokey, I agree with you. I was one of these guys that thought Clemson was the class of the ACC. I don't think they are. I think Miami's better. I think Georgia Tech can beat them. Haynes King is expected to play. He said out last week. One of the toughest kids in college football. And Brent Key, he's got a saying, and it's simply run the damn ball. And they will run the damn ball And I think they can play keep away with Clemson. And if there's no crazy turnover luck here, I agree with you. I think Georgia Tech's a better team. This is a great spot for them. And, this would be a crippling loss to Clemson, which, can't say it would eliminate them from college playoff contention, but certainly I think it would eliminate them from getting in a large bid. They can still win the ACC, obviously, even with a loss and with some luck. But that's one of the games I'm really, really psyched about seeing this weekend is Georgia Tech Clemson. So I think Georgia Tech's the real deal, and I think everyone fell in love with what Clemson brought back, and for whatever reason, it's not clicking. Just because you bring back a lot of folks, you guys know it, doesn't mean you're going to have the same success the following year.
Brett, Clemson has to get their scary back. They used to be scary, and I just don't feel like anybody is afraid of them in the way that they used to be. In spite of how much talent they may have, they're not intimidating folks at all, and they're not. They're kind of bland, which was surprising given all the changes they made over the last couple years.
You're right. And I mean, I watched some of the Troy game. Troy was gashing him. Troy was running the ball on him. Obviously Clemson eventually took that game over. But still, they shouldn't struggle in that game. Now you could say, well, they're in a flat spot coming off LSU. That's fine. But I agree with you. They're not intimidating. They don't have that kind of it factor, that wow factor. And then those folks that are, critical of Dabo Swinney, they're like, and this is with a lot of coaches. We heard it with Jimbo Fisher. What's Jimbo's record without Jameis Winston? What's Dabo's record without Trevor Lawrence or Deshaun Watson? It's funny how these great quarterbacks can make these coaches look really good, and then when they lose these generational quarterbacks, then it kind of shows that it's kind of really not coaching. It kind of matters if you have the better players, you got a better chance to win. I agree with you. I don't think Clemson's got the better players right now. And so far, Cade Klubnik has been a disappointment, quite frankly.
Brett, are you surprised by Kansas State's early season struggles? And do you feel like this is something that's correctable for them? Or is there like issues that are, not like controversial issues or anything, but just like culture that's just not going to plan right now in Manhattan?
I think they got some of that Oklahoma State 2024 rubbed off on them because they look exactly like OSU did last year. OSU was projected, one of the top teams in the conference. And then whatever reason, they brought back a ton of folks, starting quarterbacks, Ollie Gordon, and things just didn't go right. And then looking back at OSU season, I think once things started going wrong, then it's like everybody started pressing. And they pressed and pressed and pressed. And then they got to the point where they realized, hey, our playoff bid's screwed. We can't win the conference title. And then it went south really, really quick. Is that going to happen to Kansas State? I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, the Ireland game, look, nothing's wrong with losing to Iowa State. I think Iowa State's one of the top teams in the conference. But then, again, they struggle to win when they come back against an FCS team. They hang on to beat North Dakota, rally to beat North Dakota, is a 4-touchdown favorite. And then Army beat them. And I don't know if there's so many crazy stats. I don't know if you guys saw this. The second half, time of possession, there's 30 minutes in the second half. Army had the ball for over 26 minutes. That's like impossible.
Yeah.
But they did. So now you've got a game, now you got a short week. You've got the extended travel of Ireland. Now you're playing you came off an option team. Now you're going in an Arizona team, which I think is vastly underrated going into the year. I think they want to prove that they're better than what last year showed. So they could be looking at 1-3 right now, and then what happens is does the bottom fall out? But it's like thank goodness the Big 12 didn't do their media poll, because they probably would have been at the top of it. They may finish last. I mean, I asked all the coaches in Frisco to pick their championship, their 2 championship teams. My anonymous poll I did for On3, and Kansas State and Iowa State got the most votes. and Kansas State could finish towards the bottom of the league.
Yeah, I got to tell you, that's you're right about the poll. I would have had K-State probably 1 or 2. Last thing for me.
Yeah.
You wrote the article today on Golesh and USF, and you put the note in about the first one to go from Russia to being a college football playoff coach. Give everybody that don't know the background on Alex Golesh and where he came from.
Yeah, it's really amazing. He was actually born in Moscow, Russia, in 1984. And for folks that aren't up on their Soviet Union history, when he was about 6 or 7, there were protests, there were tanks rolling through the capital city in Russia. The Soviet Union was collapsing. There was a Cold War going on. There was a lot of stuff going on. And so basically his family, they had 2 sons, so they feared for their sons' lives. So they got on a plane and flew to New York City when he was 7. They moved in with an aunt. They moved to Ohio. He got introduced to the game of football when he was 12 and became a defensive line coach in high school. And then he kind of climbed his way up. 9 jobs in 20 years. Most recently offensive coordinator at Tennessee. And now he got the head job at USF. And it's true. When he was in elementary school in New York when he was 7 years old, his entire family did not speak one word of English. And he said the first word he learned in English was bathroom. And the reason was so when he had to go to the bathroom in class, he knew what to say so he could leave the room and go to bathroom.
Wow. That's awesome.
You know me, I'm always up for a good pun. So I said it's fitting that the first English word he learned was bathroom, because USF's program has been in the rhymes with spitter until Golesh got there 3 years ago, and he's turned it around.
Yeah, no question. Brett, great stuff as always. I love your sense of humor with some of the tweets and, as you said, the puns. Thank you so much for your time. Great job in the story, and enjoy the rest of the week. We'll see you soon.
All right. Enjoy the Beal.
Yep. Brett